back to Kareem and my English, everyone. Today, we're going to be learning two verbs, would and used to. And our objectives will be to discuss the differences, their functions, and to get a little bit of practice with them. So, without further ado, let's get started. Would and used to are verbs that are essentially the same, but there are some small differences within them and when we would use them. So, let's look at the two. Here, I've divided the two verbs, and we have what's the same and different. So, first, used to would. One of the most important things is that used to and would are used to talk about the past. Specifically, repeated past actions or events for both of them. So this can be a simple routine. This can be sports that you played, maybe playing a musical instrument, or just some daily activity. Now, you have to be careful because it's not exactly like the past simple in meaning. The past simple can be used to talk about past repeated actions, but it can also be used to talk about single individual action. However, used to and would do not have that same ability. It is only for repeated actions. So if it is an individual or single action, only use past simple. What is similar about used to would in the past simple is that these actions are no longer true. Like the past simple, they happened in the past and they're finished. You no longer do or participate in these actions. Let's look at some differences between the two now. The first one is the type of verbs we can use. Used to describes actions as well as states. Now, we're going to look more about what's a state verb shortly. But would can only describe actions. Next, when we make negative sentences. Now, just like any negative sentence, we always change the auxiliary verb to agree with the subject. In this case, we would say didn't, used to. If you notice, it's not used to, but used to. And that's because, the verb must agree with the subject. And in this case, didn't. Now, used to is a set verb. It will always agree with its subject, no matter what it is. I used to, you used to, we used to, they used to. Always that. Using wouldn't as a negative in the past is a bit different, and we'll look at that when we start our activity. But one more thing that's different between the two is that would is a bit more emotional. It has more of a nostalgic feeling to it. What is nostalgia? Nostalgia is this feeling of sadness, but a kind of happy sad for something in the past. Imagine in your childhood, you used to spend lots of time with your friends, playing games, eating, exploring your neighborhood, and you think back to those times. You're like, oh man, those were really great times. I wish I can do that again. This feeling, this is a nostalgic feeling. And in many cases, we would use would to represent those types of repeated actions. Now that we've talked about similarities and differences between the two, I mentioned we would look at state verbs. State verbs are verbs that can represent feelings, emotions. For example, like, hate, feel. Also, they represent thoughts and opinions. Believe, know, agree. The way I like to think of state verbs, these are verbs you usually cannot see someone doing. You can't see a person feeling. You can't see a person liking or believing. They're not physical, they're impossible to see. Non-state verbs, or in this case, these types of action verbs like run, eat, play, do. These are things you can see someone doing. And therefore, we can use both used to and would. But with would, it would only be actions. Only action verbs. Now that we've discussed the differences between used to and would, and we've seen examples of state verbs, I want to provide you with a small activity. I'm going to put sentences right here, and I would like you to pause the video. I want you to think about which verb would be the best, used to or would. Then you can unpause the video and we'll check your answers. Here are your sentences. Please take a few minutes and pause the video to complete the activity. Okay, so here are the answers. And let's go through them one by one. Sam lived in Chicago as a child. Sam lived in Chicago as a child. The most important thing we look for here is the verb after the gap. We have live. Sam would live in Chicago. I mean, it sounds okay, but live is a state verb in many cases. Can you see a person living? No, you can't see a person actually doing that. So because live is a state verb, we can only use used to in that context. So Sam used to live in Chicago as a child. Does Sam live there now? No, because remember, these events are no longer true when we use used to and would. Let's do number 2. Jake played the violin in school. Jake played the violin in school. Can you see someone play something? Yes, you can. In that case, we can say Jake used to play the violin in school. Do you think it would be wrong to say would? Jake would play the violin in school. Technically, no, because play is a non-state verb, and would can function in this sentence. We, bake cookies with grandma. Grandma. Everyone loves grandma. They give you things, they give you snacks, treats, toys, and they're always so nice and so kind to their grandchildren. And so we know that this is no longer true. So we're thinking about this time when, we spent it with grandma baking cookies. Oh, it was such a good time. Oh. It's a bit more personal. It's a bit more nostalgic in this sense. And would be a perfect fit here. We would bake cookies with grandma. Oh, man. Wonderful. Could you say used to? Of course. Just as a typical thing you and grandma used to do. But in my personal opinion, this would be a bit more nostalgic. And finally, number 4. They speak English, but they learned. So we understand that now they do speak English. So that means in the past they didn't. So this must be a negative. They didn't used to speak English, but they learned. Now, you might be saying, well, speak is a action. You can see people speaking. But saying would here would, in a way, change the meaning. Now, when you say they wouldn't speak English, this indicates that there's actually more of a choice in their decision. So maybe they can speak English, but they are deciding not to. They wouldn't do it. They refused to do it. Everyone, nice work. So let's just quickly review one more time. Used to, would. So remember, both are used for repeated actions in the past that are no longer true. Used to can be used for both states and actions, while would is only used for actions. Remember, we must have the auxiliary verb didn't agree with the subject, which means we have to change used to use to. And would is more nostalgic in its meaning. We also have state verbs, which represent feelings, emotions, like, hate, feel, and we have thoughts and opinions, believe, know, agree. Everyone, awesome job today. I do hope you learned something, and if you already knew this, I hope this was a good review for you. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please don't be afraid to hit that like button. And if you do want more English, please hit that subscribe. And if you want more English content, you can always follow me on Instagram and TikTok under the same name, Kareem in My English. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.